Hi, football fans. How we doing? So, time again for my weekly picks for week 5. Before we do that, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, and let's get into it. Before we do this week's picks, I do what I always do, which is get into last week's picks and how we did. So, first game, I had the Bengals beating the Titans 24-21. Not close. Somehow, the Titans ended up winning that game 27-3. Are the Bengals dead in the water? We shall see. That's good poetry there, Jaws. All right, here's the really big one. I had the Bears 33, the Broncos 30. I had the high scoring part right, but somehow the Broncos managed to pull it out 31-28 after being behind 28-7. Just two absolutely vomit inducing teams. And the fact that the Bears scored 28 points on the Broncos kind of takes away a little bit from the fact that the Dolphins got 70 against them a couple weeks ago. Next game up, this one I'm not happy about at all because I picked the Saints to win the division. I had the Saints 16-13 over the Bucks, and instead the Bucks put them out the pasture 26-9. That whole division is just a bunch of bleh. Like, it's unwatchable. It's absolutely unwatchable. Just an entire division of barely mediocrity. Next up, one of the easiest games of the week to pick. I had the 49ers 30-12, and they ended up winning over the Cardinals 35-16. Anytime you pick the 49ers to get 30 points or more, so far they're golden. All 4 games, they've scored at least 30 points. Next up, this one was a nice little surprise, but I did pick it kind of close anyway. I had the Chiefs 23, Jets 16, and it ended up being 23-20. So not too bad on my part. The Jets just have too good of a defense to get completely blown out even against the good teams, unlike certain teams that I'm a fan of. Next up, I had the Eagles beating the Commanders 23-9. The Eagles did win 34-31, but whoa, what was that? I mean, you almost lost to the Commanders. You had to go to overtime to do it. Is the Eagles defense slipping there a little bit? That's not, or are the Commanders actually a good team? Maybe a little bit of both. All right, here's the one that I don't want to talk about, but will. I had Dolphins 34, Bills 27. There's just no part of this that I got even close to correct. The Bills won 48-20. Yeah, the Dolphins almost could have scored the 34, but just the Dolphins defense has got problems. They've got issues. They've got issues on top of their problems. Next up, I had the Jaguars 26, Falcons 24. Jaguars did win 23-7. Jags need to continue to improve. They have not looked as good as we've expected them to, but this game went a long way towards getting them back to the level that their fans expected. Next up, I picked the right team I had the Seahawks 40, Giants 30. I also had the 3 right with the Giants. I just 33. It's just a 0, so it was pretty close. Seahawks pretty much dominated that game. 11 sacks. Here's the one that I got right. Well, I got it wrong. I had the Packers losing to the Lions by 1, 35-34. Instead, it was the Lions scoring 34. Packers only got 20. Lions are probably better than we give them credit for, or else the Packers are just not as good as they had hoped. Next up, I had the Vikings 21, Panthers 17, and it finished 21-17 Vikings. They finally got a win. Wasn't a one-score game. Well, it actually was a one-score game. So, technically, you know what I'm saying. I'm old, so to me, one score is 7, but 8, and Panthers could have tied that game. Vikings took it instead. Next up, I had the Cowboys 26, the Patriots 19. Instead, the Cowboys scored double the 19 and the Patriots only got 3. Are the Cowboys this good? Are the Patriots this bad? Probably a little bit of both. Next up, all you had to do was mix the 1 and the 7 and the 4, and it was close. I had Chargers 27, Raiders 14, and it ended up 24-17. Two teams you can't trust that choke everything away. Somebody has to win. Somebody did. Next up, I had the Colts 23, the Rams 19. So close, yet so far away. The Colts scored the 23, and the Rams did finish with a 9, but it was 29-23 instead of 19. A little bit surprised here. I thought the Colts were going to try to make a little bit of noise, but I'm not all that disappointed that the Dolphins are not tied with the Colts. Next up, we had the Ravens 20, the Browns 16. Close-ish, 28-3 Ravens. It's kind of interesting to watch the Texans play with a real quarterback while the Browns are struggling to score points. Next up, speaking of those Texans, I had Steelers 21, Texans 20. No, just no, 30-6. I don't think anybody expected the Texans to put 30 on the Steelers. I know the Steelers' offense is a struggle, but I did not think their defense would be that bad. But C.J. Stroud is turning into, we shall see. We've seen a lot of quarterbacks come in, look good for a year, and then not so much. So it remains to be seen if that's going to continue. And that was it for this week. Now, how did I do over the week? Let's find that. All right, so for week 4, I was 10-6, so I was 1 game worse than last week. My season total so far is not too shabby, 40-24. My shocks and surprises, the Finns getting blown out, the Titans actually winning big, and then the Commanders and Jets keeping it close. So not too bad. I was hoping I would do a little bit better than last week, but I've had a winning record every week so far, so nothing to complain about there. All right, let's move on to week 5. All right, so this is my second attempt to record this segment of the video. My webcam decided to give out and stop working in the middle of recording. And of course, I'm looking at my graphics and not looking at the screen that is recording. So here we go. I have the Commanders 26, the Bears 9. Now, the Commanders have looked like a halfway decent football team, and the Bears have looked like a half of a football team. I think this is one that the Commanders are going to win and start to give themselves a little bit of wild card hope. Next up, I've got Cocoa Puffs for Crazies. The Cardinals 22, the Bengals 16. Now, at the start of the season, anybody who picked this would have got slapped upside the head. Now it's kind of to the point where you have to pick this. The Cardinals have looked good. They're at home. The Bengals have looked like dirty ass. Next up, San Francisco 30, the Cowboys 24. One thing we know, San Francisco's getting 30 points, right? Can the Cowboys keep up with them and win this one? I think they can keep up, but I think in the end, Cowboys will have the ball last, and San Francisco's 49ers, I can't speak. The 49er defense will win this game in the end. Next up, I've got the Chiefs 27, Vikings 20. The Vikings have just found ways to lose games. Like last year, they found ways to win. The Chiefs have been keeping things. They're winning, but they had trouble putting Zach Wilson away last week. So I suspect they might have the same issue here with the Vikings, but I'm not exactly going to pick against the Chiefs here. Next up, I've got the Eagles 37, the Rams 27. This week, we'll find out if that was just a momentary blip for the Eagles defense or if they have genuine issues. I suspect they're going to win this game, though. I know it's another road team. I have a lot of road teams winning this week, but just kind of like the Chiefs and the Vikings, I'm not exactly ready to pick the Eagles to lose to the Rams. All right, this is the most important game of the week. I got the Dolphins 44 to Giants 13. The Dolphins were embarrassed last week, so they had just better blow this team out. The Giants just got obliterated. They allowed 11 sacks. So if there's any team that should be the perfect recipe for our half-ass defense, this better be it. The Dolphins better come into this game pissed off, and the final score should indicate that. Next up, nothing surprising here. Bills 38, Jaguars 17. This is not last year's Jaguars, and sometimes that happens when teams, last year they were a little bit unexpectedly good. Now we're expecting them to be good, and they're not playing as expected. I expect the Bills to win big in this one. It's at home, and Buffalo's just not going to lose this game at home. Next up, here we go. I've got Zach Wilson winning a game on the road. What do you think about that? Jets 26, Broncos 16. I mean, if the Dolphins can score 70 on them, right, and the Bears just scored a bunch of points even though they managed to lose, the Jets should be able to get 26. What's that? 2 touchdowns and a bunch of field goals sounds about right. You don't trust the Broncos to win. And again, even though this is on the road, come on, the Jets aren't going to lose every game. This is one that they should win. All right, we're going to put the Packers over the Raiders, 34-26. I have a feeling the Packers are going to do a lot of win-lose this year, which in the NFC might qualify them for the playoffs. They might even win the division with 9 wins. Nobody's really tearing it up. Raiders have the ball last. All they need is 8 to tie the game, and they'll find a way to screw it up. They're the Raiders. Next up, Lions 34, Panthers 13. Lions are a good team. I think they're going to blow the Panthers out here. This should be a nice, fun game for the home fans. What's better than going into Lambeau Field, beating the crap out of the Packers, and then having a home game against a mediocre opponent the next week? Lions should roll. Next up, I've got the Ravens 28, the remnants of the once great Steelers 10. And I don't even think that's going to be an offensive touchdown for the Steelers. Give it. Lamar Jackson throws a 99-yard pick six when it should have been 35-3, and it makes the score look a little bit better for the Steelers, who are not making the playoffs. All right, now this one might surprise you a little bit because the Saints, I picked the Saints to win the division, and you know I don't like to see the Patriots lose. That said, the Patriots got embarrassed last week, okay? And they get to come back home against the Saints team that just lost to the Bucks, all right? If there's anybody you don't want to face after getting their asses kicked, it's Bill Belichick and the Patriots. It won't be easy. You see that. That's, the Saints could win it with a field goal in the end. Maybe they missed the field goal, right? It's supposed to cool off and be a little bit windy on Sunday. That sounds about right. We got 2 more games here. Remember, there's only 14 because we've got teams on the bye. I've got the Texans 29, the Falcons 24. The Texans are playing really, really well, and C.J. Stroud is becoming, we don't know what yet, as I've said. I never really buy into a quarterback in their first year, mainly because I've watched Dolphin quarterbacks come in their first year, and I'm sick and tired of hearing just give guys time and give guys chances, but Stroud has played pretty well. So whether or not he's going to be a viable top-tier quarterback, that will come in time. But for now, this is another team on the road that I think is going to win. And the Texans definitely should start sniffing around, having possible wild card thoughts, maybe like the Packers. All right, and the last game I've got here, Colts 26, Titans 24. I got a feeling about this game that there's going to be something's going to happen in this game that everybody's going to be watching. Okay, there's going to be some kind of crazy play, or the referees are going to get involved, or something is going to happen where at the end of the game, there's a highlight or something that everybody's talking about. Colts 26, Titans 24. Don't be surprised. Titans have the ball last. Chance to win with a field goal. That's perfect time for a Ryan Tannehill interception. Don't you agree? And that's it for week 5. Hopefully my camera lasted long enough for me to, it's brand new in the box. See, I had to go to my stash and pull out a brand new camera because the old one that I've been using for about a year and a half now finally gave out on me. It's earned it. I can't tell you how many times Kyle and I have dropped that thing during the live stream. So I'm surprised it lasted that long. It's dropped 2 or 3 feet from the desk at least 50 times. So the fact that it lasted that long with the nice big fat made in China sticker on the back. This is actually, I just bought the same camera again because that one's lasted so long. Not like my Dolphins, who only lasted 3-0. And then they lasted 3-0. And then they were 3-0, and they were 3-0, and they were 3-0. And we are now 0-5 after being 3-0 since Marino retired. And that's the way I end the video.